What's going on YouTube? It is your boy MrBaboon back with a reaction video. So this time we are reacting to another timeline video. This one is 1983. We're going to react to this, all that good stuff. We're going to figure out all the good stuff that happened in the 1983s. We're going to figure out what all happened. Because if you're like me, you wasn't born yet. I was not born yet. So this is our best way to find out what happened. So real fast, if you guys want to watch the video or check out the channel for yourself, you guys can find out that down below in the description for you guys to check it out. There will be the links for that, the video, and the channel down below if you guys want to check it out. So, all that good stuff, let's gonna get right into it, shall we? Like the video, right? And then now we full screen the video. And now we hit play.
1983. It was a thriller of a year where we would see many highs and lows. From the ugly side of the Cabbage Patch Kids craze to the first man to moonwalk on TV, and a mohawk man with a bad attitude who would pity a fool. While every breath you would take would feel like somebody was watching you, there were some good clean moments.
Fresh and clean as a whistle. That's Irish Spring.
Today, we're going to talk about the
Irish
news,
Spring.
culture, sports, and entertainment and all that was weird in the 80s. This
Yes.
is Timeline.
Let's
Today,
go.
we're on to 1983.
1983.
But before we get going, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History channel and let us know in the comments below what 80s story you would like to hear more about. Okay then, are you ready to see 83?
Say hello to my
My
little
little
friend.
friend.
Good enough for us. This is 1983.
Such a good
We
movie.
start off with sports. The new United States Football League, or USFL if you're saving time, held its first player draft in New York on January 4th. While the USFL had first crack at all incoming collegiate football players, the incoming rookies shied away from the new league, which was not good news for the league. Dan Marino was drafted in the first round as the first pick by the Los Angeles Express. He declined LA's offer and months later signed with the Miami Dolphins. The USFL would go on for 3 seasons, folding in 1986 after a failed antitrust lawsuit against the NFL, which was led by New Jersey Generals owner Donald J. Trump. A notable weird
Wait,
birth.
what?
South Korea says that Kim
What? I've never heard about that. That's my first time hearing about that. I gotta do some more research on that one.
Jong-un was born on January 8th, 1983. North Korean government officials insist that the year was actually 1982. American records show that the year was actually 84. This is the kind of uncertainty that consistently follows North Korea's supreme leader.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Kim Jong-un succeeded his late
It's
father,
pretty crazy.
Kim Jong-il, in 2011. He also made a friend for life with Dennis Rodman in 2013. With
I don't
ties
think
to
I've seen
casinos in Las Vegas, Cuba, the Bahamas, and London, Meyer Lansky became one of the most financially successful gangsters in American history. At his peak, Lansky was worth an estimated $20 million. That's over $200 million adjusted for inflation. When he died of lung cancer on January 15, 1983, Lansky had $57,000 to his name.
Maybe you can hire the A-Team.
I love it when a plan comes together.
We turn to
Now
some
that I have
tragic
seen.
music news. Karen Carpenter collapsed in her bedroom at her parents' home in Downey, California on
Hey.
February 4th after years of struggling with anorexia. Paramedics found Carpenter alive, but her heart was only beating once every 10 seconds. She died a couple of hours later at Downey Community Hospital. An autopsy attributed her death to emetine abuse, an ingredient used to induce vomiting. Staying with music,
Damn.
released as a single 8 months before her 5th studio album, Faster Than the Speed
bro.
of Night, Bonnie Tyler unleashed the anthemic Total Eclipse of the Heart on February 11th. Written by Jim Steinman, the composer who would go on to write chart-topping power ballads for Meatloaf, Air Supply, and Celine Dion. Total Eclipse of the Heart went on to #1 on the US Billboard Hot 100 on September 30th, 1983. Staying with pop music, it took 3 months for Michael Jackson's Thriller to touch #1 on the Billboard 200. But once it was there, it stayed for 37 weeks.
Damn!
The record-breaking #1 streak began on February 26th
It
and
stayed
ended
up.
on April
Damn.
14th, 1984,
I didn't
when
know
the
it stayed there
Footloose
for like
soundtrack knocked
37
Jackson
weeks. I
out of
think
the
that's
top
what it
spot. Of course, Thriller has staying power. It never left the Billboard 200. Thriller is still on the Billboard 200 chart today. Go ahead, check. We'll wait.
Is it?
Told ya.
Oh my God.
Channel now to network TV, and after 11 seasons,
Shit.
MASH ended its run with Goodbye, Farewell, and Amen. The series finale was
I have
so
seen
highly
that.
anticipated, CBS sold commercial space in 30-second blocks for $450,000, even more than what NBC was charging for Super Bowl ad space that year. MASH still holds the title for the most watched episode of any television series, with a total audience of 121.6 million people.
Damn.
The 2-hour series finale was the
I didn't
most
know
watched
that.
television broadcast in American history until 2010, when Super Bowl 44 came around. For some fashion news, and finally, Swiss design for the people.
I did not know that.
Plastic Swatch
Shit.
debuted in Zurich, Switzerland on March 1st, 1983, when watchmaker Nicholas Hayek responded to the decline in sales of costly Swiss watches. The low price of $40 meant anyone could afford a Swiss timepiece. Nowadays, a Keith Haring swatch fetches over $1,000 on the collector's
What?
circuit. Now for some weird weather. On the morning
What?
of March 1st, 1983, Los Angeles got hit by a surprise tornado.
Damn.
The twister destroyed homes, cars, businesses, and even ripped off a good chunk of the LA Convention Center's roof. The tornado's path paralleled the 110 freeway for close to 4 miles, tearing a half-mile wide gash through downtown LA, killing
Damn.
9 people, seriously injuring 30 more, and flattening 150 buildings. Turning to technology, the first
Damn.
commercial CD player, the iconic Sony CDP-101, beep boop bop beep beep boop, made its first appearance in Japan.
Bro, tornadoes are terrifying. Never been in one. Really don't want to be in one. I knocked on wood, cause fuck that. That shit is terrifying, bro. We're gonna knock again. Cause never want to be in a tornado, bro. That shit is terrifying. Any of the natural disasters stuff is terrifying. You know what I mean? It's absolutely terrifying.
On October 1st, 1982. Unfortunately, everyone else in the world had to wait until March 19th, 1983 to play their $17 compact discs. But after 100 years of popping vinyl and warped tape, Sirius Audiophiles were more than thrilled with the $1,000 price tag for crisp, clean sound with no noise interference, even if the sound was a bit hollow and tinny. In a nationwide television address, President Ronald Reagan announced his proposal for the Strategic Defense Initiative on March 23rd. Reagan claimed that the missile defense system would protect the United States from ballistic nuclear missiles. The following day, the Washington Post quoted an angry Senator Ted Kennedy, who said Reagan's defense proposal was reckless Star Wars schemes. The program's nickname, Star Wars, stuck. Over 10 years, the government spent around $30 billion on developing Reagan's Star Wars. But the
Damn.
program went nowhere. If you were
Just
watching
let
it
it go
live
nowhere.
on March 25th, you remember exactly
$30 billion on that just for it to go nowhere.
where you were when Michael Jackson moonwalked across
Crazy.
the Civic Auditorium in Pasadena, California. The occasion was Motown 25, Yesterday, Today, Forever, a televised special to celebrate Motown's 25 years in the music business. When Michael Jackson slid across the stage during the guitar break in Billie Jean, it was as if time froze for a second.
Cream eggs from Cadbury. Why, they're the best thing to come along since the Easter Bunny, and when he's gone, they're gone.
We now go to Japan, and after 5 years of
Those
planning and
are-
construction, Tokyo Disneyland opened on April 15th, the first Disney park to be built outside the United States. Turning to the Middle East, the first embassy suicide bombing occurred in Beirut, Lebanon on April
Damn.
18th. The attack killed 32 Lebanese, 17 Americans, and 14 passersby. It was the deadliest attack on a U.S. diplomatic mission up to that time.
Damn.
In music news, McKinley Morganfield, more commonly known as Muddy Waters, died on April 30th, 1983, at the age of 70. If you're wondering how influential Waters was, consider that the Rolling Stones named themselves after his song Rollin' Stone. And Brian May, Jimi Hendrix, and Angus Young all cited Muddy as one of their biggest influences.
Was the wrong computer.
Shall we play a game?
How can I ask you that?
How about global thermonuclear war?
On June 18th, NASA astronaut Sally Ride became the first American
Yeah.
woman in space when she launched with her 4 crewmates aboard the Space Shuttle Challenger.
Oh, wow.
During a pre-launch press conference, Ride dealt with questions like, will the flight affect your reproductive organs? And do you weep when things go wrong on the job? No one's exactly sure when the Catholic priest James Carney died in Honduras, but records and interviews estimate it to be sometime in July of '83. After being ordained in 1961,
Yeah.
Carney was sent to minister
Huh.
to impoverished Hondurans. He eventually became chaplain for the Revolutionary Party of Central American Workers. As the Honduran Army's elite Battalion 316 closed in on the Revolutionary Party, it's reported that Carney was captured, tortured, and thrown to his death from a helicopter. His remains have never been found.
Damn.
Originally titled Black and White and developed
helicopter.
for Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder, Trading Places premiered on June 8, 1983. If this featured extra looks familiar, that's Giancarlo Esposito. Giancarlo struck villain gold as Gus Fring, who would first appear on Breaking Bad on May 17, 2009. It was a banner day on July 14, 1983 for an Italian-American plumber. That was the day that Nintendo unleashed Mario Brothers in Japan. North America would get the game about a week later on July 20th. Some weird historical weather? The coldest natural temperature ever recorded at ground level on Earth was minus 128.6 degrees Fahrenheit. For those of you outside of the US, that's negative 89.2 degrees Celsius. The Big Freeze happened on July 21st, 1983, at the Soviet Vostok station in Antarctica. And at that temperature, it would only take a few breaths of air to induce hemorrhaging in your lungs, which would lead to a quick death. To sports. In an afternoon game on July 24th, 1983, George Brett hit a 2-run dinger against the Yankees. The only problem for Brett was that his bat's handle was covered in pine tar, and Yankees head coach Billy Martin called it out to the umpires. The umps disallowed the home run, and that's when Brett went ape. Speaking of apes, a black baboon, the first non-human primate conceived in a laboratory dish, was born at the Southwest Foundation for Research and Education in San Antonio, Texas on July 25th. The female baby, named E.T. in a laboratory dish, was born at the Southwest Foundation for Research and Education in San Antonio, Texas on July 25th. The female baby, named E.T. for embryo transfer, was born 6 months after its test tube fertilization and, coincidentally, on the 5th birthday of Louise Brown, the first human conceived in vitro. For those of you in the regions of America who didn't get their TV yet, there was Friday Night Videos. The weekly show debuted on July 29th, and it was a godsend for those whose parents didn't want to spring for basic cable yet. The show hung on for 17 years before NBC aired its final episode on December 29, 2000. In a joint initiative between then LAPD Chief Daryl Gates and the Los Angeles Unified School District, the Drug Abuse Resistance Education Program made its debut on September 5th. DARE was a program designed to keep teenagers off of drugs and alcohol. Some of the earliest studies of DARE's effectiveness exposed DARE as being a pretty ineffective program. Turns out teenagers don't like the learn by riveting PowerPoint presentation and prefer the do it and see if we die kind of approach. Back to music. Lucky Star, the fourth single off Madonna's eponymous debut album, was released on September 8, 1983. Madonna initially didn't want to release Lucky Star as a single, but she was in the middle of being sued and needed the money. Warner Brothers executive Jeff Ayeroff, the guy who greenlit Madonna's career, told her to allow him to release the song to earn extra royalties. Ayeroff was right. Lucky Star was Madonna's highest-ranking single on the Billboard Hot 100 off her debut LP.
I mean, that's good, right? I'm pretty sure that's good. That was one of her hottest songs on the... Right? I'm pretty sure that's good.
Whenever there's trouble, G.I. Joe is there. G.I. Joe, American hero.
Get to the citizenship. A few months after he finished filming The Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger took the plunge and became a naturalized U.S. citizen on September 17th. He became one of the rare Americans who also has Austrian rights, as Austria rarely allows dual citizenship. 20 years later, on November 17, 2003, Arnold would use his citizenship to become the governor, being elected the 38th governor of the state of California. Vanessa Williams was the most talked about woman in the world when she became the first African American Miss USA winner on September 17th.
That's pretty cool.
In a 1984 issue of Penthouse, the world saw a nude 19-year-old Williams in what became the magazine's most profitable issue ever. Miss USA pageant officials forced Williams to resign. Vanessa would save the best for last when... We flash forward to January 14th, 1992, when Williams would rebound with the release of the song Save the Best for Last, which would make it up to number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 list.
That's pretty good.
If you're familiar with the phrase 2 and 2, you've probably seen at least one episode of Love Connection, the dating game show.
My question, even back then, shit like that was getting leaked? Instead it was getting leaked to, what, magazines or some shit? Is that what I'm understanding it in? Because that's wild. Like, I mean, is that, am I taking that right? Like, you know? Like, so even back then, that shit got leaked.
Hosted by Chuck Woolery,
That's
who coined the
wild, bro.
phrase, debuted on September 19th. It was one of the most popular game shows of the 80s, but on July 1st, 1994, after 2,120 shows, Woolery 2-2'd for the last time. All in all, Chuck Woolery conducted 35,478 interviews, which produced 31 marriages and 20 children.
Hey!
Now for a notable 1983
pretty
moment. With an estimated worth of $2.2 billion, Gordon Getty was ranked the richest man in America according to Forbes in its second annual Forbes 400 list, which was published on September 28, 1983. How did he earn his money? The American way, of course. His father, the late billionaire oil tycoon John Paul Getty, gave him a boost. Today, Gordon is still worth what he was in 1983, $2 billion large. Only now, he's the 212th richest person in the United States. Oof. That poor, poor billionaire. Turning to the theater, on September 21st, David Mamet's Pulitzer Prize-winning Glengarry Glen Ross made its world premiere on the stage of the Royal National Theatre in London. A film adaptation of Mamet's play debuted on October 2nd, 1992, with an expanded script and a new role, Blake, specifically written for Alec Baldwin.
I've been in this business 15 years.
What's your name?
You! That's my name! You know why, mister? Because you drove a Hyundai to get here tonight. I drove an $80,000 BMW. That's my name.
Here's something you didn't realize about the 80s. The world almost experienced Armageddon on September 26, 1983. But thanks to Lieutenant Colonel Stanislav Petrov of the Soviet Air Defense Forces, you're here watching this video instead. The near-nuclear annihilation happened several weeks after the downing of Korean Airlines Flight 007 over Soviet airspace. An early warning system near Moscow reported the launch of 6 American missiles. Convinced that the U.S. would come at Russia with more than just 6 ICBMs, Petrov halted a retaliatory strike which would have resulted in an immediate and irrevocable escalation to full-scale nuclear war. Flash forward to 1988 when Petrov's actions were finally revealed. Phew! Thank you, Petrov. That was close.
What? Bro, I did not know about that. Bro, there was almost a nuclear war back in the day.
Jonathan Chase, master of the secrets that divide man from animal. Animal from man. Manimal.
A notable ending. The hand-cranked telephone died on October 11, 1983, in the village of Bryant Pond, Maine. While the rest of America was on to rotary and push-button phones by November 18, 1963, Bryant Pond was proud of the fact that it was the last city to fully convert. We go now to South America, some 100 miles north of Venezuela. The United States Marines and a coalition of 6 Caribbean nations attacked the tiny island nation of Grenada at dawn on October 25th. The invasion, codenamed Operation Urgent Fury, resulted in an Allied victory within a little more than a week. Nearly 20 years after it was introduced to Congress, President Ronald Reagan signed a bill marking the third Monday of January as Martin Luther King Jr. Day on November 3rd. Of course, the holiday wouldn't kick in for a few more years. So on January 20th, 1986, America celebrated Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Although by that time, 17 states were already recognizing their own King holiday.
The quarterback. Billy Sims, the deep back, and the toss to Sims. Coming to the near sideline. Cuts upfield. Hurdles over a couple of people.
Damn, he just kicked that guy in the face.
Oh my goodness, did you see that?
Bruh.
He hit Steve Brown with what looked like a karate kick.
While there were signs of mania...
No.
Coming to the near sideline.
Look at this shit. Bang! Bro. I've never seen that before.
Coming to the near
side. Look at that.
Cuts upfield.
Bang!
Oh my goodness, did you see that? He hit Steve Brown with what looked like a karate kick.
While there were signs of mania leading up to it, the Cabbage Patch Kids hysteria began on November 25th, better known to us as Black Friday. Parents would travel hundreds of miles to a toy store if they heard a rumor that a new shipment of Cabbage Patch dolls came in. Coleco's inability to keep up with consumer demand caused fistfights and riots across the United States. The Great Cabbage Patch Kids doll scare of '83 was also the first instance of holiday hysteria that's become a part of America's holiday tradition since. Freddie Heineken became a free man on November 30th after being kidnapped 3 weeks earlier. Heineken, CEO of Heineken Beer, as well as one of the richest people in the Netherlands, was released on a ransom of 35 million Dutch guilders. That's 17,495,961 American dollars. Adjusted for inflation, Heineken's freedom cost a bit over $45 million.
Damn!
It took the 5 kidnappers 5 years to plan the job, and it was the highest ever paid for a kidnap victim at the time. The kidnappers were eventually caught and sent to prison. Crime does pay, you just can't keep it. If you had cable and you were around a TV on December 2nd, you were watching Thriller's debut. John Landis, 16 months after the deaths on his Twilight Zone set, directed the $900,000 video on 35mm film. Former Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld met with Saddam Hussein on December 20th, 1983, to show America's support for the regime despite its use of chemical weapons. The U.S. was pushing for the Iran-Iraq war to end, and Rumsfeld was sent to the Middle East to serve as a mediator and do the bidding of President Reagan. And that's how 1983 would end. 1984 was just on the horizon. It would be a year for fashion, fast food, and Olympians. But that is for next year. Until then, you can have a snack while you wait for 84 to come.
For a taste that's crispier than ever before. Mrs. Paul's crispier, crunchier fish sticks and fillets.
So what do you think? What story would you like to...
No, I'm good. You can keep that. I'm good. That was definitely interesting. Definitely interesting. Because there was just so many things on there that I didn't know happened. Just like in all the other timeline videos, I feel like. There's a lot of stuff that happens that I just didn't know about. I really need to do some more research. Anyways, that's going to do it for this video. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. I'll see you guys in the next one. Make sure you guys check the description. I got the video and the channel link down below in the description if you guys want to check it out. That's going to do it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Positivity is key. Motivation is key. Happiness is key. I'll see you guys in the next video. You guys stay safe. Watch out for each other. I'll see you guys in the next one.